The Oklahoma City Thunder just had one of the best regular seasons we have ever seen. They won 16 more games than the second best team in the West this year, while the 2 through 8 seeds were only separated by 8 games. Even when the Warriors won 73 games in 2016, the Spurs were still not too far behind them at 67 games. This made me think, are the Thunder really one of the greatest teams of the 2000s? So I sat down and started working on a list. We will be looking at my final results today and figuring out who has been the greatest team since the year 2000. Let's state the terms of the list really quick. Each team will be graded on star power, regular season dominance, playoff competition, and playoff dominance. Each category is scored a little differently. Star power's top score being 5, regular season dominance and playoff competition's top score being 10, and playoff dominance top score being 15. Huge shout out to our Discord server for helping me pick some of these eligible teams. If you want to join the Discord, click the link in the description. Let's kick this list off with rapid fire honorable mentions. The 2003 Pistons were one of the coolest teams of all time, but these one-off teams are just hard to stack up against some of the dynasties we have ahead. The 2010-11 Dallas Mavericks fall in a similar boat as the Pistons, but shout out Perk Nowitzki. The 2015 Cavaliers had a legendary playoff run, but again, are a one-off team in terms of all-time success. Same could be said about the 08-09 Lakers. What really hurt this team was letting Aaron Brooks and Yao Ming take them to 7 games. Okay, these next 2 teams only missed by 1 point, the first being the 07-08 Boston Celtics. They did not put a single team away in 5 games this playoffs, although a stacked league by having a round 1 game 7 versus Atlanta definitely hurts this team a lot. The other team is the 2002 Spurs. This may be one of the best seasons we have ever seen from a single player in Tim Duncan. And it made me have a hard time distinguishing between Duncan's dominance and the team's dominance. All their series went 6 games, but they beat teams like the Suns, Lakers, and Mavericks. Then they played Jason Kidd in the finals and won. I really wish this team ended up making the list, but at number 5, I ended up going with the 2023-24 Boston Celtics. Where Boston lacked in star power and playoff competition, they made up for it in playoff dominance and a perfect regular season. They hosted the number 1 offense in basketball and the number 3 defense in basketball with a 64-18 record. Before the playoffs even started, it felt like Boston was going to walk away with it, and that's exactly what they did. The Knicks and the Bucks were the 2 teams that people were hopeful could beat Boston, yet Boston did not see either team because both got injured and then waxed by the Pacers. The Nuggets were the only team out west that felt like they had a chance versus Boston, but the Nuggets could not even make it out the second round. It's safe to say Boston didn't play who we wanted them to play, but that's not entirely their fault. They did end up playing Boston without Jimmy Butler, Cleveland missed 2 of their stars, and then the East wrapped up with the Pacers, who just weren't ready for the moment. In the finals, they would face the Mavericks, who just felt like they were so exhausted. With that being said, they dominated with one of the greatest regular seasons we have ever seen, so they deserve a rightful spot on this list, but they are not as legendary as the next team. At number 4, we got the 2012-2013 Miami Heat. This is another team that just dominated in the regular season. LeBron had one of the best seasons we have ever seen from a player, averaging 27, 8, and 7, being second in Defensive Player of the Year, and he won what should have been a unanimous MVP if a voter didn't decide to vote for Carmelo Anthony. This team was loaded with 3 All-Stars, including D. Wade and Chris Bosh, and this is also the season where they added the biggest betrayal in NBA history at the time, Ray Allen. The energy this team had was electric. Coming off their first finals win, they would win 66 games and end up top 5 in both offense and defense. Around this time, everyone was rooting against this team, and that just goes to show how great this team really was. I mean, you don't root against a team that sucks. Come playoff time, they would put a quick sweeping on the Milwaukee Bucks. Then they would match up against the Chicago Bulls, where Chris Bosh and D. Wade would struggle, combining for just 26 points per game between the 2 of them. This really didn't matter because Chicago had no chance with Rose being injured. Heat would win in 5. Next, they would have that iconic series versus Paul George and the Pacers. Bron averaged 29, 7, and 5 in the series where it really felt like Paul George was coming to take LeBron's throne. LeBron and the Heat would close the series out in 7 games, giving us what would be the greatest NBA Finals of all time. The Miami Heat versus the San Antonio Spurs. To show how great this Heat team really was, the Heat came into the finals as a minus 240 favorite to beat one of the greatest teams of all time in the Spurs. The Spurs were also hot coming into the finals, sweeping 2 teams, and their only losses came to that young Warriors team with Steph and Clay. The Spurs swept the 56-win Grizzlies and the Dwight Howard-led Lakers. So for the Heat to come into the finals, not only as a favorite, but as a heavy favorite, was super impressive. We had a game in this series where Mario Chalmers led both teams in points. We also had a game where Danny Green would lead both teams in points. But LeBron putting the heat on his back in Game 6, putting up 32, 11, and 10, which led to Ray Allen hitting the 3 to send Miami to overtime, was the perfect cap to this season. In Game 7, LeBron and Wade would combine for 60 of Miami's 95 points and close out the Spurs, cementing their spot as one of the greatest teams of all time. This and the Paul Pierce, KG, Ray Allen Celtics were some of the earliest constructions of these manufactured big threes. This would change how teams would be constructed over the next 10 years. This team redefined greatness and deserves a spot on this list. If you want to redefine how you watch sports, check out Boom Fantasy. Boom Fantasy is the best daily fantasy sports app in the world because they offer so many unique features. With their pick and spin, you could place a 2-leg parlay and it'll pay you out up to 500 times your money. Name another betting service that'll do that and I'll switch over. Just place the bet, spin the wheel, and bam, you have a chance at 500 times your money. I also love their promos. Just recently, they had a 15-day streak where all their discounted promos cashed. That's all because they listen to their community and let the community choose their discounts. So sign up now and use code RTP for a risk-free play up to $100. That's code RTP and you could place a risk-free 2-leg parlay that could pay you out $5,000. Thanks again to Boom for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to the list. At number 3, we have the 2013-14 San Antonio Spurs. This team finished in the top 6 of both offense and defense, but had 0 players that ended up on any All-NBA teams, and their only All-Star was Tony Parker. At the time, people were only rooting for this team because they could go toe-to-toe with the Heatles, but also slandered this team consistently for being a boring team. However, this team had a spark this season with a young Kawhi Leonard, who would end up being instrumental in this team's championship run. In round 1, they would face their toughest matchup in the entire playoffs, being only a game away from elimination by Monta Ellis and the Dallas Mavericks. This series would set San Antonio off, and they would end up knocking Portland off in 5 games and OKC in 6 games, en route to another finals appearance. Then they got to the finals in a much anticipated rematch. They would handle the Miami Heat in 5 games. This Spurs team won because of their stifling defense. We have all seen the clip of LeBron looking frustrated while Kawhi subbed into the game, but this Spurs team also held Wade and Bosh to 15 and 14 points per game, respectively. With no one being able to step up on this thin Miami team, the Spurs handled business with one of the greatest defenses of all time. If you beat one of the greatest teams of all time and are consistently great, you deserve to be on this list, and the Spurs did just that. At number 2, we have the 2016-2017 Warriors. This team took what the Heatles did and took it to a whole nother level. They added Kevin Durant to a team that just won 73 games and ended up winning 67 of their own. They had the number 1 offense in the NBA, putting up 115 points per game, and had 3 All-NBA players, 4 All-Stars, and Draymond found his way on the All-Defensive First Team. The Warriors swept through the West despite KD sitting 2 games and would face LeBron in the finals and beat the Cavaliers in 5. Whether you like this team or not, it's so impressive how quick work they made in the playoffs. And I'm a Thunder fan, so this hurt me differently, but there's no doubt in my mind that this is one of the greatest teams ever. The reason they're not number 1, however, is the competition. The Blazers were good, but not a team to be taken seriously. That's why they could afford KD to sit out 2 games in that series. Then they would play the Utah Jazz, and despite Gordon Hayward averaging 25 points per game, it just was not enough. And then, in the Western Conference Finals, they would play the Spurs, who many people thought could at least compete with the Warriors. But just after 1 game, Kawhi would get hurt, giving the Spurs no chance at all. I would have loved to see this Warriors team run a real gauntlet, but that just was not available for them. That is what really separated this team from the number 1 team. The number 1 team on this list is the 2000-2001 Lakers. The Lakers had one of the lowest scoring regular seasons on this list, but everything else passed with flying colors. The 2000s Lakers had a bottom 7 defense in the regular season, and their 56 wins would only be enough for the number 3 seed. Shaq and Kobe both finished number 3 and number 4 in points per game, and once the playoffs started, they flipped another switch. They had an iconic 15-1 record while sweeping the Western Conference. They swept the Trailblazers, who won 50 games, the Kings, who won 50 games, and the San Antonio Spurs, who were the number 1 seed in the West. You know this team played out of their mind when Tim Duncan turns the ball over more than 4 times a game against you. There's narratives nowadays that Kobe got carried by Shaq, but he averaged 33 in the conference finals versus the Spurs and 35 in the round prior, all at just 22 years old. However, I'm not gonna lie, Shaq took them home in the finals, averaging 35, 16, and roughly 3.5 blocks per game. This playoff run showed dominance and had a high bar for competition, 2 things that matter the most on this list. Shaq and Kobe being the stars amped up their star power to 5 out of 5, and with that, they finished as by far the best team of the 2000s. This is a new form of content that we're doing, so if you want to see more of it, show me love in the comments and don't forget to subscribe. Comment down below some other subjects you would want us to hit, whether that's basketball or any of the other major sports. Huge shout out to Boom Fantasy for sponsoring this video, and don't forget, when life gets hectic, run the play. Boom! Let's dive on a star through the night, and I can't let it every night. If you happy, I should be alright. It's tragic.